Welcome back to part 2 of my late game strategy dump. Last week I did a pretty long video on just double ignitions, and this video I'm going to talk about all the other cool variations. So once you accept a more restricted form of double ignition, it actually unlocks a whole lot of other things. For example, let's say the 5 is over here. In this case, if I want to get slot 1 and slot 4 here, this is an easy one. You'll always be able to just trash push one player. And this is obviously unnecessary, so Fishcat will respond. Ignore this is just a random hypothetical, so none of this is real, of course. But yes, this would play because it's unnecessary, and then this would play. So that's probably the simplest. But the other common trash maneuver is a trash pull, in which case you can do something like this. In this case, you're cluing trash on slot 1. You're saying to play this card, and then they will play this card, because it's unnecessary. So, and just to show the last form, that also works if the card is on slot 3. So let's say something like this. I can simply clue 2 here, and after this plays, Adron should trust that it's actually a pull. So that covers pulls and pushes. The last one to talk about is chop moves. So let's say the 5 is all the way over here. This can be whatever. Now, if you clue 1 off chop, then this should be read as a chop move. Now, if this was actually trash, Fishcat would eject. We'll talk about that in a second. But seeing as it's not actually trash, Fishcat can comfortably blind play this. Then what's the unique situation that would allow this to not be like an ejection? Well, it's only if my chop moved card is actually a 5. Now let's say I'm trying to get slot 1 from Adron, and Fishcat's 5 is actually somewhere else. Okay, let's go through it slot by slot here. So pause and see if you can figure out what the move would be. Yep, so this would be a trash pull. Now if it's here, try again. Yep. Another trash pull. Blue or 2 actually would work. Okay, if it's here, this is probably the easiest to spot, trash push. And finally, this is maybe the weirdest seeming one so far. If piano clues 1 here, now Fishcat has to think, well, it's not an ignition because he could have clued the 3, and he has to think retroactively. Since piano is trying to get this card to play, it's not any sort of like ejection or discharge. That means it must actually be a chop move, so he can play that, and Adron will play that. We've seen it's pretty trivial to get any combination now of 1 5 on the first slot and another 5 somewhere else. But what if they're both buried deeper in the hand? Just remember, if they're ever in the same slot, it's usually pretty easy to just positional double bomb. But if that's not available, I guarantee that one of the other tools in this video will work. So yeah, let's say we're at 2 strikes or 8 clues or whatever, and piano blue cannot get both these cards with a positional bomb. Well, welcome to the ejections. Let's say I clue 3 here. Fishcat now would usually think this is a normal ignition, but wait, it clearly is not. So what is it instead? Well, he reverts to it being some sort of trash move, and in this case, this is a bad chop move. So it's calling for him to eject. And after Fishcat ejects, just pretend this is played, Adron now knows that these are both trash. But what's cool, Adron also knows that this must have been an unnecessary way to get this card, right? So because it's unnecessary, now that these have been shown as known trash, he reverts it to a trash push, as if this was clued trash. So now he can play this card. We could do the same maneuver here. This is probably the most common one because notice they're not actually in the same slot. So now this would eject. This would be known trash. Adron will trash push. Let's move on for now to slot 3. So first of all, again, obviously the most common way to do this would be a positional. But let's say you really need to discharge Fishcat. Is there a way to discharge Fishcat but also get this to play? Turns out you can do a trash push. If you do a trash push that's pushing trash, this is now an unknown trash discharge. And afterwards, just like the ejection trash push, this is now known trash, so it's actually a trash push on this card. So we get play, play. All right, there's one more particularly spicy kind. This is sort of new tech. What happens if we get this clue? So this is clearly a trash pull, except it's pulling trash. So once again, Fishcat should discharge here. And after the discharge, Adron still has to trust that this is trash, pulling a card. Let's mix it up. This is one of the unique ways to get slot 3 and slot 4 would be a discharge of this form, right? So this usually signals a trash pull, so Fishcat needs to discharge. And after the discharge, Adron will figure out that it's actually slot 4 that needs to be pulled. Some of the wackiest tech we realized is that all of these discharges and ejections should also work in reverse. So let's take this as an example. So let's try to construct the line. Piano needs to clue Fishcat in such a way that he will be able to realize that I'm trying to eject Adron. Okay, so turns out this would do the trick. This is a trash chop move, but at the same time, Fishcat knows that if he plays this card, this is actually a good chop move. Adron will assume it's on this card. So therefore, he knows this is trash. So he knows this is actually a trash push. And now Adron will know that it was an ejection. Let's do the reverse of the 3-4 split. Pause and try to figure it out if you want. Here it is. 2 here. Once again, signals a trash pull. Fishcat knows it can't actually be a trash pull because if it was, Adron would play this card. So he thinks backwards and asks what would have to be true about my hand to get Adron to discharge and for this to still be useful. So once again, this is known trash, so it's actually a trash pull pulling trash. So he plays this card, Adron discharges. GG. So I'm going to quickly share a couple examples. These were from actual tournament games that Kimby and Piper and I played. And these helped us clinch the #1 spot, I'd say, because these double clues are like incredibly powerful in situations where usually we'd have to just get them individually, right? So it's Piper's turn. He needs to get this yellow 5 and this green 4. So pause and see if you can figure out what clue he gave to signal both these cards at once. So a hint, we need to give a clue that would let Piano know that Kimby is being ejected. So Piper went with yellow. So this is known trash. I know that this is normally a chop move, but if I played this card, Kimby would play this card. So Piano understood what's happening. He blind plays slot 2, and Kimby understands this must mean she plays her second finesse position. Okay, last example. A little context. The 4, 3, and 5 are all known. So pause and see if you can find the move to get both the blue 4 and red 2 with one clue. A trash push discharge. Since these are known trash at this point, Piper sees that Piano is about to bomb this card, so Piper has to signal that it's in fact trash. And Piano sees that this was totally unnecessary, because why isn't Kimby just cluing 4s? So Piano trusts and blind plays this card. Thanks for watching. Believe it or not, there are actually even weirder things we developed to get slot 4s and 5s, but that's beyond the scope of this video and probably this series, but have fun, and I hope these videos have helped persuade you that double ignitions are super too broad right now, and honestly, I feel like these developments can really have a huge impact on how late games are played. Once we realized that it is basically always possible to do a double trash play, no matter where the slots are, we basically stopped giving 1-for-1 clues in the late game. Like, there's no reason to. Just keep discarding, keep playing cards until both your teammates have things to do, and then you can pick them up at once. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. I think I'm going to try to cover some shadows and mirages and all that shenanigans. So see you next time.